Last night I met God. He granted me permission to call him by his name. What did you do to me, my Leslie? What did you do to me, my Leslie? What did you do to me? 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 What did you do to me, my Leslie?
Tell me, why is an accomplished foreign architect shoveling coal here in Philadelphia?
Some truths aren't spoken, they're built. The Brutalist isn't just about architecture, it's about the structures we create to protect ourselves. But what happens when those walls start to crack? That's the question Brady Corbet's monumental film asks. Winning numerous awards and earning both critical praise and strong box office numbers, The Brutalist has cemented itself as a modern epic. Drawing comparisons to The Godfather and Once Upon a Time in America, its long runtime has sparked some debate. Some see it as indulgent, others as essential. I fall firmly in the latter camp. With performances from Felicity Jones, Guy Pearce and Joe Alwyn, and a haunting score that rivals even Dune Part 2, this film is something special. But beyond its craftsmanship, what makes The Brutalist truly remarkable is its depth. The flawed characters, the hidden details, the layered metaphors. This film is filled with them. Every scene carries weight, often revealing more than what's on the surface. Take one of the film's early moments. Laszlo, aboard a boat, steps onto the deck and looks up. Above him looms the Statue of Liberty, but not in the way we're used to seeing it. The framing feels different, almost ominous. The way the statue is flipped is a clue, a quiet warning. The American dream isn't what it seems to be. Opportunity comes at a cost, and what awaits Laszlo may be far from the promise he imagined. Now mirror that with the scene near the end of the film. A shot lingers on a cross inside the building that Laszlo designed. But look closer, it's upside down. A visual used in horror films to signal something sinister. It's no accident. The Brutalist subtly redefines two pillars of American identity, liberty and Christianity, flipping them to reveal their hidden sides, exploitation and repression. Let's take another look at the scene from the early design phase of the building. Pay close attention to what Harrison says.
Perhaps a swimming pool. I can't swim.
Even though the building is meant to serve the community, Harrison ensures that nothing is included unless it aligns with his own interests. His selfishness is absolute. His vision must dominate, no matter what the cost. But here is where the film's brilliance reveals itself. Near the end, when Van Buren vanishes into the building, a police officer makes a telling remark. The setting, an underground tunnel flooded with water. The officer's comment suggests that they have found Van Buren's body submerged in the very thing he feared most. In the end, what he sought to control became the force that consumed him. A haunting parallel that looms over the entire movie. And these are just two small examples. The film is layered with meaning, and I want to break down 5 of my favorite hidden details. Keep in mind, these are just my interpretations, not necessarily the director's intent, but that's the beauty of The Brutalist. It invites us to look closer, to question, to see what's been there all along. Let's dive in. The film is built on repression, on people withholding, concealing, and maneuvering around the truth until it consumes them. No one speaks openly, and even when the truth surfaces, no one is willing to confront it. Take Laszlo's cousin's wife. She never explicitly tells him to leave, but nudges him through veiled suggestions.
When do you expect your wife might join you, Mr. Toth? There's not room for the both of you in that storage place. You know, I'm sure you could get a job, better job, at a firm here.
a passive push, and unspoken rejection. His cousin too avoids directness, even when he finally withdraws his support, accusing Laszlo of driving away clients and making a pass at his wife.
Wake up. László, befogadtalak a házamba. Adtam neked munkát, és te így haladod meg. You run my clients out the door? You make a pass at my wife? I'm not gonna hurt you. But I can't help you anymore, either. You got that?
He stops short of saying what he truly means. Leave, you're not wanted here. And Laszlo, he doesn't argue. He doesn't defend himself. He absorbs it, all in silence. This pattern defines him. Harry, Van Buren's son, embodies the same repression. He plans a grand library in his father's honor, but keeps it hidden, a tribute he never voices. Van Buren himself is the master of deception. During lunch with Laszlo, he dominates the conversation, never allowing him to finish a full sentence. When Laszlo manages a few subdued phrases, Van Buren steamrolls past them.
We damaged some guttering, which we intended to replace, but it was a misunderstanding.
Forget it. Take the money. I would like you to come and see it in the daylight.
I've already seen it.
I'd like you to come and enjoy it, rather.
And then he mocks Laszlo's restraint.
You could have elaborated a little more on your background. You didn't do yourself any favors back there.
Van Buren doesn't actually want to hear anything from Laszlo. He only wants to talk. And then there's the lie.
I gather you conclude from our prior interactions I am blunt.
It's laughable. Van Buren is anything but blunt. He's calculated, masked by civility, careful in his deception. Repression lingers in every corner of this film. Maggie Lee, the daughter of Van Buren, recalls a moment when her father choked down an awful trifle at a dinner party.
As she prepared what appeared to be a delightful-looking trifle. And Daddy has such a sweet tooth, I didn't know how to warn him in front of everyone before he took a bite this big. He began gagging like a house cat. And all he could say to explain was, "Dear, I'm allergic." To which our concerned hostess replied, "Allergic to what?" "I am allergic to whatever that is."
Feigning an allergy instead of admitting distaste. The American way. Never confront, never offend, never say what you mean. Just navigate around the truth until it collapses. Laszlo learns. He learns that honesty is a liability. He stops speaking about the war, about Elizabeth. No one outside his community acknowledges anti-Semitism, but no one wants to hear it. And when Elizabeth finally arrives, her first question is a wound splitting open.
Haven't you told them anything about me?
Of course not. He has learned better. Van Buren's most insidious deception is his silence. He never acknowledges what he did to Laszlo, never apologizes, never even names it. Instead, he twists reality, reframing the night as Laszlo's fault.
You were in quite a state last night. Orazio carried you to bed. It was a 4-hour train to the airport in Fiumicino. I hope your stomach is not too sensitive on airplanes.
This is his truth, the world he constructs, a world where reality bends to his will. But repression can't last forever. When Elizabeth finally speaks, openly, publicly, the film shifts. The focus isn't on Van Buren, but his son, unraveling under the weight of revelation. This is the moment where the illusion shatters, and Van Buren, he disappears, evaporates, as if he was never really there. In the epilogue, the truth emerges in the form of Laszlo's architecture. His building is not just a structure, it's a monument to his pain, his history, his survival. Only now, with Van Buren gone, can we understand its full weight, because repression silences art, and only in its absence can the truth be heard. This isn't just a film about deception, it's about survival, about how America rewards those who can manipulate, who can play the game. Van Buren thrives in this system. But Laszlo, he's an artist. An artist doesn't lie. An artist speaks through his work. That's why he never defends himself. He doesn't need to. But here lies the tragedy. The more Laszlo absorbs the American way, the more he represses. He hides things from Elizabeth. He never tells her about the prostitution. He never tells her about his impotence. The only time he finally speaks fully, unguardedly, is when he's drugged, stripped of the American facade, momentarily returning to his raw, unfiltered self. In that moment, the cycle of deception breaks. But does it free him, or does it leave him stranded, caught between two worlds, belonging to neither? America tells you that only the destination matters, that the journey is irrelevant. The Brutalist dismantles that illusion. From the opening frame, this is a film about control. Who holds it, who loses it, and who ultimately shapes the narrative. Laszlo Toth, a gifted architect and a Holocaust survivor, arrives in America believing his work will define him, that his talent will carve out a place for him. But America has its own plans. Enter Harrison, a man who is more than a man. He is power, wealth, and influence distilled into a single figure. He doesn't just own things, he owns people. And when he brutalizes Laszlo, it's not just cruelty, it's a declaration. You are nothing. You are here to build, not to be remembered. So when Harrison dies, disappears really, his absence feels almost irrelevant. He was never just a person. He was a force, an idea woven into the foundations of America itself. He lingers in boardrooms, in institutions, in the quiet ways the system erases those who don't conform. You can't show him dead, because in a way he never truly was alive. He was always something larger, something that persists. Did you notice one thing? We never actually see Van Buren's dead body at the end, because Van Buren is more than a person. He is an idea, a mentality that keeps persisting long after Van Buren's gone. That's why we cannot see the body, because he is still present to this day. By the epilogue, Laszlo has lost everything, including his voice. At a ceremony meant to honor him, he sits in silence, watching others define his legacy. Zsofia steps forward to speak for him. She was never deeply connected to his work, never part of his artistic vision, and yet here she is, offering the final word. She tells the audience what his buildings meant, reshaping his life into something neat, something that fits within the myth of the American success. Her speech is smooth, too smooth. It's not the journey that matters, but the destination. But after watching Laszlo endure a lifetime of suffering for 3.5 hours, are we meant to believe that? Or is this just another story crafted for comfort, another way to erase the truth? This is where the real horror of the Brutalist emerges. Not in violence, not in loss, but in the quiet act of erasure. His niece rewrites his work, framing it in a way that suits the audience, that suits the politics. Did he really draw inspiration from concentration camps? Or is that just another label placed on his art, another imposed meaning that wasn't his to begin with? And isn't that the real tragedy? That after everything, after all the pain, the struggle, the fight for a place in this country, Laszlo still doesn't get to define his own story. The film begins with Zsofia, the film ends with Zsofia, and if you look closely, you'll see her daughter played by the same actress as her younger self, a reflection, a continuation, a quiet suggestion that the cycle isn't broken, it only renews itself. Because in America, the system doesn't shatter, it repeats. The Brutalist leaves us with one final question. Not just whether Laszlo's story was stolen, but this: who is next?
If you guys are liking the video till now, then please consider subscribing. It would mean the world to me. Thanks.
Laszlo's impotence isn't just a minor detail in The Brutalist, it's a crucial piece of the film's larger thesis on displacement, power, and identity. And it's not simply about sex, it's about control, about ownership, about belonging. Before America, before Van Buren, before the Brutalist prison of his new life, Laszlo was not impotent. We know this because Elizabeth explicitly states,
Hozzámérhet. Don't want to hurt you,
physically.
That means that once upon a time he did, but something changed. Was it America? Was it the Holocaust? Was it the suffocating grip of capitalism on the soul of the artist? The answer is likely all of the above. Look at his time in Italy. They're reconnecting with his old friend. Something stirs in him. He feels alive. He feels like himself again, like the man he used to be. That night he almost sleeps with the women in the party. His body responds because in that fleeting moment, he has reconnected with his roots, his past, his culture. The past breathes life into him, rekindles the fire that has been stamped out by the American machine. And then he stops, not because he's physically unable, because guilt pulls him back again. Guilt for Elizabeth, guilt for even daring to believe he could reclaim the life he lost. Then comes the real brutality, the rape. It's the final, inescapable confirmation that he is captive to his circumstances in America. The old life isn't just lost, it's been desecrated, ripped from him, violated in the most visceral way possible. Whatever sparks of vitality he briefly regained in Italy is now gone, crushed beneath Van Buren's assertion of dominance. Because that's what the rape is. It's not about lust, it's about power. Van Buren senses Laszlo's growing independence, his rekindled spirit, and he cannot allow it. So he reclaims control in the most violent way imaginable. The impotence is more than just a consequence of trauma. It's a metaphor for Laszlo's displacement. He isn't just physically disconnected from his past. He is spiritually unrooted, severed from anything that once made him him. Sex, at its core, is about creation, about planting something that will grow. But how can an uprooted man plant anything? His very existence in America is transient, foreign, controlled. He cannot plant roots because he has no roots anymore. And this explains everything. Why he cannot sleep with the women in the brothel because they aren't connected to his identity. Why he can't respond to Attila's presence because Attila has become too Americanized, no longer a reflection of the homeland Laszlo craves. And why the only time he is able to perform with Elizabeth is when they take heroin together. Because only in that drug-induced haze, only in complete chemical detachment from the present reality can he forget the weight of his displacement long enough to feel human again. The Brutalist isn't just about immigration or art or power. It's about the slow, suffocating death of the self in a world that refuses to let you belong. Laszlo isn't just physically impotent. He has been stripped of the power to define his own existence, his own legacy, his own truth. And in the end, all that is left is what others impose upon him. A myth, a story, a name on a page, shaped by people who never truly knew him at all. From the moment we meet Harrison Lee Van Buren, something feels wrong. He isn't just a wealthy patron supporting an artist. He is a collector, a man who acquires what he truly cannot understand. He is hollow, desperate to fill himself with meaning through ownership. He has no real taste, no real passion. He only knows what others tell him to value. His library means nothing to him until a magazine article praises it. A painting is worthless until someone declares it remarkable. He doesn't love, he covets. He doesn't appreciate, he possesses. Laszlo Toth is everything Van Buren is not. An immigrant, an artist, a creator. He arrives in America with nothing but his talent and the hope that this country will allow him to build something meaningful. Van Buren, in contrast, does not create. He consumes. He amasses wealth, power, and influence, not for their own sake, but for the illusion of culture. People, projects, institutions, each is valuable only for as long as it serves his image. His hypocrisy is everywhere, his disdain for surprises, yet his willingness to upend Todd's life with impossible demands, his cold dismissal of Gordon, his reluctance to send condolences to the families of workers who died under his watch, fearing it might make him seem irresponsible. And then his obsession with Todd turns darker, first as a benefactor, character, then as an employer, finally as something far more sinister. The assault is not sudden, nor is it unearned. It is the natural conclusion of Van Buren's need to own him, to break him. In his eyes, Toth is not a person, he is an object, something to be controlled. But Van Buren's power is an illusion. He abandons everything the moment it no longer serves him. Toth, on the other hand, endures. He is an artist, a survivor, a man who gives everything for his vision. In the end, Van Buren's wealth and influence amount to nothing, because power without purpose is empty. Money without soul is dust. That is the story of the Brutalist. That is the story of America itself. The heroin addiction in The Brutalist isn't just a subplot, it's a crucial layer in the film's overarching message. And if you think it's just another way of saying America screws over immigrants, you're missing the full picture. Let's start at the beginning. The first time Toth is introduced to heroin is on the ship to America. The moment is symbolic. It's not just a painkiller for his broken nose, it's his first taste of the hardships he'll face in the country that will slowly poison him. Later, his wife outright states that everything in America is toxic. And what happens when he finally escapes? The heroin addiction presumably vanishes. The implication is clear. The drug is more than just a habit. It's a byproduct of his environment, a struggle, and a slow spiritual decay in a land that demands he gives up everything in order to survive. Now contrast Toth and his family with Van Buren's. The Toths are physically weak. Zsofia is mute. Elizabeth has osteoporosis, and Toth himself is wrecked by heroin. Meanwhile, the Van Burens are in peak physical health, a picture of wealth and prosperity. But the Brutalist flips the script. The Toths have immense spiritual and cultural strength, while the Van Burens are hollow, cultureless, and spiritually bankrupt. They may have everything physically, but Toth has something they never will, something eternal. And then there's the role of heroin in Toth's art. The film repeatedly connects his drug use with the moments of artistic inspiration. It's not just an escape, it's a way to transcend the physical, to touch something greater, something higher. Elizabeth even describes it in near religious terms, as if it allows them to commune with a higher power. But of course, it comes at an extreme physical cost. This isn't just an addiction, it's a sacrifice, it's suffering for art. It's the brutal reality of being an artist in a capitalist world. This ties directly into why Toth and Elizabeth take heroin together before she overdoses. That's one of the only moments in the film when they truly connect, emotionally and physically. It's tragic but also profound, because the Brutalist suggests that the only way they can recapture the passion and connection they once had is through something that will ultimately destroy them. But here's the real gut punch. The heroin isn't something America does to Toth, it's something he chooses. He picks it up in response to his cousin taking him out, in response to his desperation, in response to his struggle. He's not just a victim of America's cruelty, he is seduced by it. And that's what makes it so powerful. The film doesn't just say America exploits immigrants, it says America tricks them into thinking they have to exploit themselves to survive. So no, The Brutalist isn't just about America screwing over immigrants. It's about how that process happens. It's about how the American dream warps into something to survive rather than something to achieve. It's about how artists, immigrants, and even dreamers get drawn into a system and makes them destroy themselves for their own success. And in the end, Toth gets out. He leaves, and presumably the addiction ends too. He survives. But at what cost? That's The Brutalist.
If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and hit the like button. It really helps a lot. And I'd love to hear your theories on this topic.
See you in the next one.